anytime a government draws a budget where you have expected revenues and you have your expenditure plan, and for any reason your revenues fall, either you sacrifice your program or you close the gap with other tools. And there are three main tools for closing deficits or addressing deficits. Either you go and borrow.
You mean fiscal tools?
Fiscal tools. In terms of running the country.
Yeah.
Either you borrow or you finance from the central bank, which is printing money, where we all pay through inflation. Or the third one is that you raise taxes. Three major ones. You can have it, but these are the three
There's
major
no any
ones.
other way, yes.
Now, this government already has explained some revenue shortfalls in its first fiscal year, 2025. It wasn't surprising. When they came and made politics with E-Levy and all those tax handles that were bringing some revenue, Ojo Opon Nkrumah, good morning, senior. I think he had his birthday recently. Yeah? Ojo Opon asked Atu that, my senior brother, how are you going to close this fiscal gap? And then Atu told us that they have some tax refund. That if it drops it from 6.5 to about 3.5, it was an equation in 4 variables. I tried to calculate that equation, I couldn't solve it. And because of the complexity of the answer, we were like, hey, is Atu going to do some magic? But long story short, the gaps that Kojo pointed to did exist to the end. It was difficult to close, so that's why we had the revenue shortfalls. And
but Okoe, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did the NDC government have the luxury of not
removing those taxes,
especially when they had promised not just generally Ghanaians, but they had promised specific identifiable interest groups who had come to say these taxes are hurting us.
You know what? The politics of running nations can make political parties make a case out of certain items that shouldn't be a case for elections. True. That's the point. Because Atu and most of our people know that the country that we run, what we rake in, does not even match what we spend. So, whether you like it or not, you can call it E-Levy or call it whatever levy. It was a tax handle. It was a handle that was bringing in some money. If you tell me that the quantity is too much, reduce it, it makes sense because we are trying to have a balance. But to say it was evil, it was putting pressure on Ghanaians. Let's take it out. We are suffering. I just did some checks. E-Levy brought 643 million Ghana cedis in 2022 when it was introduced. It brought 1.19 billion in 2023, and by 2024, it was given an average of 2 billion a year. E-Levy. Are you aware that the D-Levy, which was brought recently, raked in about 2 billion Ghana cedis in the first 5 months? Which means it had a potential, the target was 7 billion, but it had a potential to raise about 5-6 billion going by the first 5 months of performance. If you take a tax handle that was bringing in 2 billion and say it was evil, it was burdening the Ghanaian, and then you introduce one which brings in twice the amount. If the first one was evil, how do you call the second one?
But the context is important.
No, you see, it's not about context. You see, let me tell you something. You run the country.
Yes.
You use a consolidated fund.
Right.
Whatever name you give the tax handle, it is bringing money from the citizen into the basket.
Fair point.
So, some of the money that, how do you call it, when they were justifying D-Levy,
yes.
And I'm talking about taxes because I'll come to this so-called tax you want to remove and what it can lead to.
Yes.
The D-Levy, we were told that we need money to buy the fuel for the IPCs. Is that not it?
Yes, and also deal with legacy debt.
Exactly. When we were in government, it is tax handles like the E-Levy, the money they brought, that we used to purchase the fuel.
Right.
So, I don't need to call the E-Levy, how do you call it, a fuel levy for you to understand what it's going to do. Once it enters the basket, it becomes part of the resources for keeping the ship of state afloat.